Possibly the sound of a drum kit, it's given by the sound of the room. It's very important for us to understand the role that the space in which we're going to be recording a drum kit plays in order to achieve the type of sounds we're after. As per example, if we have to record a funk song, let's say, we need a specific sound for a drum kit. So not only it's very important the choice of the kit element and the choice of microphones and their placement, but it's extremely crucial to choose a place that would allow us to play around with the reflections of the sound and being able to capture that sound that potentially describes not only the size of the drum kit, but as well the space in which we're going to be recording the drum kit with. In this case, we had a very large room that allowed me to experiment a little bit more with different microphone techniques. Right now, we're going to start analyzing closed room microphones, and for this occasion I've used 3 different combinations of room microphones. Those are approximately 8 feet away from the kit as we measured, and I've used a mono room, a stereo bloom lane configuration, and a stereo MS mids and side configuration. I want you to see and I want you to analyze and listen to it, the differences that this multiple microphone techniques makes in order to achieve a very good sound of a drum kit. Now we're gonna start with our mono room. The reason behind a mono room, it's because I want to kind of like have my I use the U47, a tube microphone. It's a very colorful microphone, and I want this microphone very low, approximately to the height of the kit, slightly tilted down, because what I want is the microphone to capture first of all the direct sounds of the drum kit plus a little bit of the reflection coming from the ground. Now the great thing about this microphone is that it's positioned very low, because what I want to do is kind of like to capture the sound wave and the very low frequency expansion that leaves and that is generated by the kick drum. And what I want to do is having this low end to develop to the point that I capture it with the maximum accuracy through the U47. Now the way you're going to be listening to the U47, it's a little bit distorted, because distorted might not be the right term, it's a little bit more compressed, let's put it that way, because we put the input of this microphone, we had the microphone passing through an 1176, which we had used in all buttons in order to truly bring up a little bit more the length of the sustain of each note. So I'm going to jump into Pro Tools and I'm going to do the exact same experiment, letting you hear these microphones. In order to do so, I'm going to move to another memory location, and as you can see over here, let's see if I move it a little bit, there we go. So in front of Jake over here, we have this first set of room microphones. We're going to start analyzing the U47, and then we're going to move forward to bloom lane configuration, where we use two AKG 414 used in bloom lane. And then above that, we have our mid-side configuration, where we use an AKG 414 in conjunction with the Schweppes. Now, it's very important that you notice that all these microphones have been perfectly aligned in order to achieve the best phase coherency between the sound hitting the microphones and the microphone picking up as well a little bit of the room. So I'm gonna let you hear the kit as we have it, and right now we only have the kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, toms, and our Glyn Jones overheads on. So I'm gonna let you hear that, and then I will solo up only the mono U47 that we used as mono room. So before the overall kit. All right, so again, we have a very good definition of the overall kit. We're working with proximity microphone, we start balancing things, and we also have a little bit more of the stereo spread through our overhead microphone techniques. Let's go ahead and listen how the U47 sounds. Now that you have spotted this position, I'm going to move towards another section of the song to truly let you hear what this microphone is doing. I hope you can listen the explosiveness of this microphone. So by passing this microphone through an 1176, we are pretty much compressing all the transients, kind of like having this microphone to prolonging the length of each hit, especially for as far as concerned the kick drum and the snare drum. I'm going to let you hear now in solo the kick in plus the snare drum, and then I will add the mono room to let you hear how much the length of these two instruments gets prolonged through the usage of this mono room microphones, which will allow us also to have a pretty good center imaging of the kit. So I'm going to solo up the kick drum and the snare drum, and then I will unmute the mono room. So as you can hear, this microphone is adding that thickness that we're after. Might not be the actual sound that would describe best the drum kit, but definitely it's something that we could use in conjunctions, almost as a parallel processing, that would help us and will help the sound of the overall kit, not only to glue together, but we're creating a third dimension. So we have the overheads that help us to express a little bit more and describes a little bit more the stereo spread between our monitors. And then we have this mono room microphone that adds a third dimension, giving us a very clear image of the kit into mono, and is capable of picking up a little bit more of the low end coming in from the kit. Now, to compensate, of course, of a little bit, and I quote, lack of stereo spread with our room microphones, I've used right on top of the U47 two AKG 414 stereo pair in Bloom lane configuration. Now, Bloom lane configuration, it's another stereo microphone techniques of coincident pair microphones, and I'm using this. In other words, the capsule are precisely aiming at 90 degrees, and the great thing about this techniques is that if let's pretend you are the kit, this microphone, the first Bloom lane microphone, is pointing right at your left, kind of like almost using the null point to reduce the mono imaging of the kit, and the other Bloom lane is pointing right at the right of the kit. So now we have a very close description of the kit, left and right, plus right underneath we have our tube microphones, which help us to bring in a little bit more of the depth of the kit. The great thing about Bloom lane is that you need to use not only two microphones that are exactly the same, so we need to use the exact same model because they need to sound as close as possible one to another, but you need to use two microphones in figure 8 configuration. That means that you could as well extract the back plate of this microphone, bringing into the recording whatever the back plate of this two microphone has recorded, because in figure 8 the first capsule is capturing the direct sound from the drum kit, and the back plate is capturing all the reflections that comes from the overall room. I'm gonna let you hear the front plate, how it sounds, and then I will also play it in conjunction the mono room. So this is our Bloom lane, and again I'm gonna start from where we can see them, which are exactly here above the U47. So given the fact that we use two condenser microphones and they are a little bit higher compared to the U47, we are of course picking up a little bit more of the harshness of the cymbals. Nonetheless, again, we're not having within this precisely microphone configuration a lot of the focus on the kit. That's why I love to work with these two combinations of microphones, where I have a mono-centric microphone picking up the mono kit, and then right above a stereo microphone that will pick up the rest of the kit in greater details and let me focus a little bit on the overheads. I'm gonna play you again only the kick and the snare, and then I will unmute and add in the closed microphones. I'm gonna start first with the bloom lane, and then I will start adding in the mono room. All right, let's hear what we got. I actually am gonna move towards another section. So right now I have generally create a very rough balance between how I want the blend of the mono microphone blending in with the kick and snare, and as well the bloom lane. So I'm gonna let you hear first the blend of bloom lane. So I'm gonna start again first on the kick and snare, and then I'll just put in and unmute the bloom lane, and I want you to hear how all of a sudden, boom, the drum kit will open up in front of you. So first bloom lane. You see how much now we got a little bit more depth. It's not as heavy, but right now we have definitely a little bit more information of a third dimension. So all of a sudden the kit got a little bit more distance, whether when we were listening only to the kick and snare, they're right up front. Once we add the room microphones, and we're talking about the closed room microphones, the bloom lane configuration, all of a sudden it's kind of like if we take all those elements and we put them into a context. I'm gonna let you hear now the exact same example, just putting in the mono room to let you hear the difference, and then I'm gonna letting you only hear the three room microphones. Do you hear how much the length of the snare and the kick drum just start to become that type of snare you hear in records? You hear that compression, you hear the transient being a little bit to be a little bit squashed, and then you hear all that hyper accentuation explosiveness out of the kick drum and the snare drum. That's exactly why we're using the mono room. So what I'll do right now is letting you hear only the mono U47 plus the two 414 in bloom lane configuration. I'm gonna change shot. So again, what we're listening to is only the U47 and the bloom lane right up here. Only the mono. Only the bloom lane. mono, bloom lane plus kick and snare. Bloom lane, mono room, kick, snare, tom and floor tom. Bloom lane, mono room, kick, snare, tom, floor tom, and then I want to open up our stereo pair or spaced pair overhead, so the two Royer Art 122. I'm going to mute the rooms to let you hear the difference, and then I mute them throughout the performance. So you hear how much right now the conjunctions of overhead microphone plus closed room started to truly put us into a context where we do really feel in the same room as the drummer.